Hi there, I'm Sandra. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be doing some foiling tips for you today. Now I've got some designs here which I just drew with a line fill on my Juliet using Shortcut Slots line fill, and I showed the other day how that is done. It's very simple and it can give you a really good effect. But what gives you an even better effect is using foils. But there's a trick to using foils. Firstly, your glue pen. Now the best glue pen I have found, and I've been using these for years, is a Sakura Quickie glue pen. It has a fine point, it is reliable, it keeps going until the glue runs out, and they're very cheap to buy. I buy them in 3 at a time generally, and they last for a very long time. So the next thing you want to consider is your card. Don't put it on a card that doesn't have good contrast to the foil that you want to put on. Obvious? Yes, until you've done it and you thought, I wish I'd done that on a different colour. So do give that a bit of thought. Don't do it on a really thin card because it may not be able to take the strain of having a pen passing over it a lot. Once you've sorted that bit out and you know what kind of design you want to do, you want to think about the line fill. Whether you want a very close fill, so that like the happy birthday here it is completely filled in, or whether, like on this pattern here, you want little gaps to make stripes. Now depending on what you want in Shortcut Slot, you can vary the width between, or the gap between your lines. What I recommend is that you use a pen with a similar tip in order to try that out on a spare piece of card so that you know what result you're going to get. If you change the nib size, you'll get a different result. If you use a thicker nib and then go to this, what was filled in will no longer be filled in. So do use the same type of nib for your practice. The next thing is you really do need to sort out how fast you're going to be drawing and at what pressure you're going to be drawing. Now I have found with experimenting that it is far better to go for a very light pressure because it doesn't damage your pen when your pen is going like that all the time while it's drawing. You don't want it to be hitting really hard, you want it to be a soft hit. So less pressure. And doing it twice, I found, is the sweet spot. If there happen to be any bits where the glue has missed, or if your card is absorbing the glue, which a lot of card does, then doing the second round means that you still have the glue on the surface where it needs to be. Don't touch it. I know it is tempting. Do not touch it at all, even when you think it is dry. Just don't touch. All right. It's like wet paint, don't touch it. So once you know what kind of pressure that you need to use and your speed, bearing in mind that slow is better than really fast. If you do it really fast, it doesn't necessarily have the time to put down the glue. So I use a speed of about 6. That way, it travels along in the same way as it would if I was doing it by hand. I'm not making it go extra fast. So after that, you need to decide what foil you're going to use. Now I have 2 sorts of foil. I have this one, the gold one here. This is just a cheapy nail type foil I've got quite a lot of. Comes in little strips. It's quite handy if you just want to do the odd sentiment, but not so good if you want to do a full A5 size. But it works, and it works pretty well. It's very thin, it's not the highest quality, but I got that result from it. I'm not complaining. The other type of foil I have is this one. And this one is iCraft Deco foil. I got some for Christmas from my husband. It's one of the things I asked for on my Christmas list. And this is the first time I've used it. It is a much higher quality foil, it is not as flimsy, and it gives really good results if you do it properly. So the next thing I wanted to show you, this is where the pen was going too fast. And this is where the pen is going at the right speed. This one is perfectly done, this one is skipping. Okay, so that's the difference between going too fast and going at the right speed. Also, this one I did 2 passes and this one had the 1 pass. I was using a heavier force and there was no way I was going to be able to do a second pass on that one. Okay, so lighter force, much lighter force. I used something like 5, maybe 10, depending on the type of cardstock, and yeah, it just depends on the type of cardstock and pen and how much ink it's got in it, because when they're full they flow a bit faster than when they're empty. And this is one that I did as well. Now the other thing which I have found is that it is almost guaranteed you will get a better result if you put the foil on top when it's dry and then you put it through an embossing machine. Just a pressure of it will do wonders. I tried doing this just putting it on by hand and no pressure on it from my embossing machine, and it barely put anything down there at all. Put it through the embossing machine and it was perfect when it came out. And I hadn't re-glued it, that was just with the glue that was still on there. So the pressure is definitely the key if you want to get a really good, clean result. So do make sure that your glue is dry. Go away, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea or a cold drink. Come back when it is definitely dry, because if you put pressure on it when it's slightly wet, that will just make it spread and splodge and it will not look good. So that's how you use a glue pen in your cutting machine. Take care now, I'll see you soon.